we vote in the chapters, and each chapter is allocated a certain number of votes according to what stage of development the chapter is at and how many active members we have. So right now we have 6 votes for Cambridge. I don't know if that might change if more people are registered as active members in the next few days, but for right now, it looks like we have 6 votes. And we can allocate our votes, we can split them. But right now, since we're voting only on one campaign, the split would be, we're just voting yes or no. So we could split and have some yeses and some nos, but otherwise, there's nothing else to vote for. At the assembly, we'll be gathering the votes from all the chapters and weighted because some chapters get more votes than others. And the goal is that anything that becomes a statewide campaign would have a 2/3 majority of all the votes. If for some reason that doesn't happen, then we'll go with each chapter voting, getting 1 majority vote. And then we'll figure out, we'll see which, whether the campaign has a majority vote rather than 2/3. So what we need to figure out today is how many votes in favor of the campaign, and if we have any votes against the campaign, how we're going to allocate those. And if it's close, like we had 50-50 yes and no, then we would have to decide if it comes to it, are we going to go with yes or no? So we may not get to that point, but just in case. You wanted me to talk about the campaign now?
Yes, please.
Or take questions? Any questions on that?
Questions are good.
We'll also be voting for the action groups at the assembly.
And we'll do all this at the end.
And we'll be asked to fill out a form, which hasn't come out yet, but it should come out this weekend, with our votes and also our comments on both the campaign and on the action groups. And those comments are intended to help people who are working on those campaigns or those action groups to maybe modify or respond to those comments. So we're taking the comments very seriously. So we hope that whatever comes out, which might be in the chat, I think Christine will save the chat, and they can be fed into the form. So clean heat, clean air. I have to tell you, first of all, I am not one of the campaign proposal developers. I was asked to speak about this by Christine, and since Christine never says no to me, I decided I should never say no to Christine. We'll just make that a general policy. And so here I am to speak about it. And I'm basically going to summarize what you saw in the webinar. So if you saw the webinar, it will be a reminder. If you didn't see the webinar, hopefully it'll be a summary. So the overall goal of this campaign is to improve the health of children and communities as we fight climate change. And as you may have heard, there was a recent study that reported that 1 in 5 deaths are caused by fossil fuel emissions. So there's a clear connection with health as well as climate. And this proposal comes from a deep commitment to environmental justice, as well as a plan to have a significant impact on emissions that affect all of us. And it comes from the idea that polluting industries, they're only able to fight themselves if we accept what are known as sacrifice zones. So people who are disposable, that if they get sick, we're not going to worry about them. That's kind of the philosophy behind where these places are cited. And it's unacceptable. And also, I just want to say personally, in my experience in Cambridge, when we've done tabling and we've done focus groups, we have found that people who in the city who are low income or immigrant often name pollution as one of their top concerns related to climate. So this fits in very well with that. And buildings account for 30% of emissions statewide. It's a lot more in Cambridge. I think it's about 80% in Cambridge. So, and there's no state plan to reduce building emissions. There's work being done on transportation and energy, but not on buildings. So the plan is to have 3 action areas. One is to support frontline communities in their efforts against polluting infrastructure. So this includes Weymouth, which we're still fighting, even though it's built, and their proposed biomass facility in Springfield, which we're trying not to allow through legislation, and to lessen the harm in communities like East Boston, which has proposed having air filters, or Chelsea, which would like to have air monitors, and to pass legislation with our allies on air quality and cumulative impacts. So the second part is build clean and green. So this is about renewable energy, about weatherizing, insulating, especially low-income family households. Legislation for the net zero energy stretch code, which is in the state climate bill and we hope doesn't get removed, but if it does, we'll push for it, and other regulatory actions. Also working with Mass Renews, we're part of that coalition, and it used to be called the Green New Deal Coalition, and on a plan to retrofit 1 million homes. And third is to advocate for a just transition. So the idea is that we will focus on low-income households and also on workers who need to transition. So to kind of say it in summary, stop the bad, promote the good, and center the most affected. And the campaign has a number of activities that can be done on the local level. They are proposing doing action hours, which they can help with for either local or state actions. They will provide webinars on areas of interest. They'll provide mentors, toolkits, what they call campaign in a box for things like a green living tour. And they have actually a sheet with some ideas for chapters. And there were 11 chapters represented in the planning for this, and some statewide teams as well. So I think I'll stop there and just see if you have any questions.
It was very thorough, Mina.
Okay. I think it's exciting. Now, if there aren't questions, what I would really love to see is if you would put comments in the chat, which could either be what you like about the proposal, what you have questions about, or any concerns about it, any of that. If you could just type that in the chat, and Christine will collect it to send to the campaign team to consider. And you can also speak to those things as well if you'd like.
Yeah, we've still got a couple more minutes on this section. Does anybody have anything to say about this campaign?
Well, I know Patty's had some involvement in it. I don't know, Diane has her hand up.
And Rachel after that.
I think you did a great job, Mina. I think you actually did a better job than the team who presented it. So thank you.
I knew what you were going to say the moment you started that, Diane, and I agreed.
Wow. Toby? Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. And then Rachel. I'm sorry.
Patty and I had our hands up too.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
whatever. It's fine.
No, go ahead, Rachel.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to just reiterate the importance of understanding this campaign is understanding from the perspective that we wouldn't have had this fossil fuel horrendous climate crisis if we hadn't decided that certain places and certain people were expendable, were basically not to be concerned about, but basically racism. And so I think, you know, from that article that I think most of us read, racism is killing the planet. It's really important to see that we can't talk about environmental justice. We can't talk about ending the climate crisis without looking at the whole system, how all the exploitation of the earth and the people is all interconnected.
Very well said. Patty, did you want to add to that?
I'm not at this moment.
All right. Toby, did you have something?
Yeah, I put it in the chat. What I love about this is that it's building on all the work that's been going on since Mothers Up Front started. And that feels really good to me, that it's, we're using our own momentum.
Anna, sorry.
Yeah, Anna. I think a couple of things. I'm very impressive. I really like the emphasis on that there not being a plan for building, and the you know, the 80% for Cambridge, 30% for the state. I think that's really important. And I think very convincing. And also, I mean, it could be argued economically too, that we're going to have to retrofit all of these buildings that are being constructed. One thing I'm just curious about is, I think partly just sort of how to, like, what are the levers for a just transition in terms of job creation? And I'm wondering also about training and education, because I think that's really fascinating. Like, I think education at all grade levels and at university, et cetera, or in wherever, is a fascinating topic in terms of job transitioning.
Mhm.
So there's just a few comments, but I'll type some out too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Can I say something?
Nina, sure.
Yeah, Mass Renew's idea of retrofitting 1 million homes is pretty highly dependent on getting federal funds to do that. It's quite expensive, but there is hope that this current administration will release funds for that purpose. And what you said about building on what we've done before, we actually, as Mothers Out Front, have quite a lot of credibility in the gas transition area because of the work we've done before. So it is important that we've built those relationships and that reputation.
That's great. So any other comments? We've got 1 minute left. Yes, Ed.
It also gives us an opportunity to interface with local groups and local neighborhood groups, which are critical to our success. And we will learn a lot from doing that. And nothing like learning from the mistakes you made. Let's hope you don't make any. So.
That's great. And please put that in the chat. Patty?
Just to add on to what Ed is saying, Rachel and I on the EJ team and another person, actually the whole team, are really putting emphasis on the Allies spreadsheet, which was developed by a sub-team on MALT. And it's going to be a very good way for people to know what's going on in frontline communities, to build relationships with frontline communities, and to stay coordinated about who's doing what. You know, in terms of Weymouth Compressor Station, Susan Lees was a point person, even though many chapters were involved. So you'll hear more about this, but I just wanted to mention that here, and that's an important part of this campaign, is alliance building.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And please, everybody, add your comments to the chat, because it's going to be really helpful when we bring this back to the MALT. And so we're right on time. So next up, we've got Toby, and she's going to present. We have these new tiers of non-campaign groups. So she's going to explain that to us and also talk about corporate responsibility. All right, take it away, Toby.
Okay, I am going to share my screen because I did put together a couple of slides, and this will be kind of a preview of what you're going to be seeing at the State Assembly. So please give your feedback. I'd love to have it. So let me just share my screen, and I'll go into presentation mode, and I'll come back to questions at the end. But for now, I can't see you too well. But anyway, so let me start. I agreed to talk about where this new set of definitions came from. Christine asked if I could review it, and I'm really, really happy to do it. And I wanted to start with how they all came about. It really was because of Andrew Rose having, I think, a clear view into a potential hole in our charter. And this came about when everyone realized, oh my gosh, we've got two incredibly powerful, appealing campaigns. And if we're only going to choose one, the other one is going to be left on the editing floor. And that didn't feel right at all. And so Andrea took it upon herself to put together a group to sit back and think deeply about what happens to the campaign that doesn't get chosen. And so that's how it all came about. And what came out of this group, of which I happen to be a member, was a new set of definitions. And this is an enhancement to the charter. But basically we sat back and we said, wait a minute, we really have 3 types of groups that emerge spontaneously from a group of people who are really interested, have common interests. At one level, there are affinity groups, and this would be a group of people who are just interested in interacting with each other. An example of that is the Grandparents and Elders Discussion Group, which actually exists right now. And it's just an opportunity to get together socially, to share common conversations. Then there are study groups. These are more formal, and this is actually how Healthy Soil started. And right now, one of the study groups is the EV school bus study group. The carbon pricing study group was one that existed. I don't know if it's still going, but this is where a group of people get together and they say, okay, we're really interested in this topic, but we need to know more. We need to understand how this would translate into work that we could do at a chapter level and at a state level. Then there are action groups, and this is corporate responsibility, of which I've been a member for about 3.5 years, has been kind of wandering around and acting like an action group, but we never had a category to fit in. So we're really excited about this. But action groups are, again, groups of people who have thought deeply about something. They know that they want to take actions and give Mothers Out Front members the opportunity to participate in those actions. Don't want to be a statewide campaign because it's really not at that level, but it is a buffet of different directions that Mothers Out Front members can take. It's particularly nice if they offer opportunities for people who are not chapter aligned, so the non-affiliated people. So what these action groups are, and you'll hear more about them, would be what Healthy Soils is going to be presenting to be. It's what corporate responsibility will be presenting to be. The difference between a statewide campaign and an action group, and these are rules that need to be kind of fleshed out a little bit more, but unlike a statewide campaign, action groups do not tax or call on state support. They don't go to the resource teams and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, all hands on deck. They give opportunities for collaboration and for work to be done. But they're not sort of front and center with everyone saying, okay, you've got to get on board with this one way or the other. And what they offer is opportunities for innovation, for things to bubble up that maybe hadn't been thought of before. There will be, I understand from the Maltz decision, no more than 3 action groups. And so presumably they'll come up every 2 years to be thought about. It takes a lot to be an action group, so I don't think we're going to have a plethora of them. There can be as many study groups and affinity groups as we have interest. So that's the basic definitions. New things that will be fleshed out a little bit more. Above all, the action groups will be required to coordinate with the statewide campaign so we don't get tension between the two or overwhelm people. So let me just stop on that conversation and just dip in for a minute to give you kind of a view of what corporate responsibility is about. I'm going to move this. I'm going to move you off. So does that look better? I hope. Corporate responsibility. Think about it as though you were having a conversation. I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep moving this around. Imagine you're having a conversation with a CEO of your bank or your insurance company. Let's say you insure through Liberty Mutual. The conversation you might have, if you remember this corporate responsibility team, is to say, hey, look, I'm a customer and my kids are your future customers. And we really, as your customers, want you to stop funding projects that are making children sick, that are polluting water, that are destroying our earth and our air, that are accelerating climate crisis, and that are increasing environmental injustice. We want that to stop as your customer. And as your customers, we are requiring that you remediate the pollution that you funded and invest in clean energy technologies. So if you picture yourself as a corporate responsibility activist, that's the conversation that we're hoping we can help you have with these big corporate giants. So if what we're dealing with is fossil fuel and deforestation companies that are causing the damage, the health damage, the deaths due to and damage due to explosions, the contamination of water so people don't have the life-giving source that they require, fouling of our rivers, streams, and oceans, unemployment of industries that are cratering but not providing for the people that need to be retrained, dead trees, so familiar in our area, lost homes. These are communities that have been so severely impacted by the fossil fuel infrastructure that's been built that their homes have no value. They are basically driven out by the destruction that's happened, or they have simply been reduced in value. What makes all this possible is the fossil fuel money pipeline. The doers are the fossil fuel companies, but it's a money pipeline that makes that all possible. So if we talk about what is the money pipeline, the money is flowing to all of these fossil fuel projects through bank loans, the insurance companies who are issuing policies that are required to have any infrastructure project permitted, and the money managers who are investing in these companies, who are putting money in their pockets and not using the stock that they own to demand something better. So by funding and insuring and investing these fossil fuel companies and their projects, the banks, insurance companies, and money managers basically are complicit. They are destroying our health. They are undermining the livability of our communities, particularly frontline communities. So going back to what Mina was talking about, the sacrifice zones, these are being thrown under the bus by the companies that we bank with, insure with, invest our money in. And they're doing all this while putting their investors at risk. So what are we doing about it? We're trying to give opportunities for all of us as customers of these companies to speak up. So for instance, in the case of the Bank of America, it was the last bank that had not enacted a policy that said they would not fund fossil fuel drilling in the Arctic. So there was a huge campaign to work on them and to say, look, this is not acceptable. And beautifully, just about a month ago, within the last month, they announced that they would not be doing that. So it was a great win. We, in the next month, in March, are going to be having a campaign asking these major banks to not renew their loan, which is a $2.2 billion revolving loan to Enbridge, who is the company that is building Line 3. So this is an opportunity for us to stand up with unbelievably brave Indigenous people and the people literally that are chaining themselves to the pipeline, Line 3, and stand in support of them and tell the banks, no, we do not want to do business with people who are loaning money to Enbridge. Insurance companies, Liberty Mutual is one of the biggest insurers of fossil fuel in the world. We had a wonderful campaign asking that the insurance companies drop the insurance that they were giving to Trans Mountain Pipeline. In that case, we didn't make it with Liberty Mutual, but Zurich Insurance dropped it, and they were a major insurer. And insure renewable energy projects. So Liberty Mutual says, oh gosh, we definitely support renewable energy projects by insuring them, but they do it in Europe. They do it in Asia. They don't do it in this country. So we have a lot of opportunity for improved behavior. And then with the money managers, again, the number of conversations we could have with them goes on and on. But one of our favorite targets is BlackRock. Larry Fink talks a good game, but we are on him and saying, no, wait a minute. What you're talking about is great. Now you have to do it. Now you have to vote for the shareholder resolutions and put pressure on the companies for transparency, getting climate deniers off their board, having a measurable plan to get to net zero by 2050. In the area of pension plans, we're working on getting through legislation to allow pensions to divest. In the Massachusetts, that's not allowed right now, believe it or not. So work there is with Deborah Goldberg, our state treasurer, to support the pension plan divestment legislation. So these are the kinds of conversations that we have. And at turbo speed,
Oh no, Toby, we're kind of running out of time.
Yep, this is it.
All right.
We're done. We do it virtually. We do it stand out on the street if we can. We have meetings with executives, so you can see, but I want to go to the bottom line. The bottom line is that this is done jointly with our allies. So what it is, it's a big megaphone. It's mothers out front speaking, using the mother's voice in concert with an enormous number of allies on these sorts of activities. So, questions. When we stop the money pipeline, we can stop this, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you. So, and I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. Super speedy.
Yeah, that was very comprehensive. Thank you, and interesting. And you guys are doing great work, and we really appreciate it. We have just 1 minute if you have a burning question. Otherwise, you could connect with Toby afterwards.
Well, you also, I'd love to have any comments or questions put in the chat. Yes, we'll follow up on them.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. So now we are going to hear from Melissa about the Healthy Soil Livable Future action group. I'm sorry, I keep getting the words wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Action
Now,
group.
one thing I want to be sure is that everyone recognizes that we are no longer known by our nickname. It's like when you go into first grade and you actually want to be called by your real name and not have the teacher call you Missy if you're actually Melissa. So we are Healthy Soil Livable Future. So if in the future you can continue to call us by that, we'd really appreciate it, because we actually spent months and months trying to come up with a name that really represented our work. So we'd prefer to be known by that name rather than our nickname. So even though I have a short amount of time, I'm going to start with a story that's going to represent something that I'm seeing on my screen right now. Long ago, in a different part of my life, I worked as a correspondent for Time magazine in Los Angeles. And that means that at some point or another, you get an invitation to attend the Oscars. So I did one night, walked in on the red carpet, and soon I learned one amazing thing. And I don't know if any of you know this, but whenever a star or even someone who has a seat near the front of the broadcast gets up to either go have a cigarette or go to the bathroom or whatever, there is a troop of people dressed in beautiful, beautiful gowns who are assigned to do nothing else than to sit in those empty seats during the time that that person is out of the room, so that there will be no empty seats shown in any shot ever on any Oscar broadcast. So I give that story because I am seeing in all of the seats that we see here, members of our Healthy Soil Livable Climate, and I want to give them a shout out. None of them have left so far. Most of them are showing their faces. So Ginger, Wendy, Leslie, Renee, Diane, and Toby. Let's hear a shout out, because we are still in our seats. No one's taken our place. We're not in our evening gowns, but we are here. So this is who we are. And despite the fact that arguably we have the best artwork in all of Mothers Out Front, as many of you probably have seen in the webinar, I am not going to share that tonight, though we might be tempted to share it at the statewide assembly. So stay tuned. You may get to see our magnificent artwork that goes with our magnificent campaign/action group. For in the last week, we have come after long discussion to the decision that we will be an action group rather than a campaign. You know, the malt was, I'm really pleased that the malt shared our whole letter. If anyone's interested in reading our rationale for making that decision, it was sent out by the malt. So let's just proceed on the notion that we are now an action group. And Toby's done a good job of explaining what that means. So let me give you a few ideas. We are just, we're like that horse that's kind of in the stable and someone already saddled it up and put the bridle on, but that horse is still attached to the post right now, but not for much longer. And I would suspect that once this horse leaves this stable, you are going to see it going at a gallop. because we feel like for the past 9-10 months, we have been just preparing kind of for this moment, and actually feeling like an action group feels like exactly what we were supposed to do. We were supposed to act. And in fact, one of our amazingly gorgeous slides that was drawn by one of our members, Janet Powers, our artist in residence, indicated that we have 3 legs to our stool. And one is to act, one is to learn, and the other is to legislate. And we actually have always thought about putting actions first, because unlike the other campaign, in terms of the clean air, which, as Toby said, builds on what Mothers Out Front has been doing, we always viewed ourselves as a complement to that campaign, in the sense that instead of focusing on trying to stop the emissions going up, we say, let's pull them down, because it's not just us, it's the IPC and the scientists say that we can't achieve our mission in Mothers Out Front, which is a livable climate, unless we do just that. So we are trying to be sort of the other side of that equation, and we think we can be in a number of ways. So our actions, you know, just to go back to Toby's point for a minute, that she's so happy that we have this statewide campaign. I am too. She mentions that it's building on all the work that we've done for the last 6 years. That's wonderful. But what we feel we can bring to Mothers Out Front, and what I think is really needed, is a growth strategy, an engagement strategy. In bringing new people in, we offer them a new doorbell to ring that says, hey, I'm here. This is really exciting me. I want to be part of Mothers Out Front. And as last time I checked the Mothers Out Front memo, we're about building power, and we build power by growing our numbers and growing our interest. So our action group is really about that idea of building greater growth through this entry door. Okay, you're going to see us come out of the box pretty early with a number of actions. One of the things we're planning for March is a movie night. Oh, let's get the popcorn popping. Let's get the movie going. We are going to find a dynamite movie that's going to engage moms and kids in being able to watch it together and bring them together to talk about what they saw. I mean, I think it's going to be amazing, and we're hopefully going to have maybe a guest who can talk a little bit about the film. So we're building our model on the model that's being used to show the movie Entangled right now, which is amazing, which is, you know, inviting people to come in, do a brief intro with people. Then we will send everyone off to the Zoom link or to the link to see the movie, so we don't end up with the streaming problems of Zoom. And then we will all come back together afterwards, after we finished our popcorn and wiped off our buttery hands, and we will have a discussion about what we've seen. And that's the part of acting and learning that goes together. So we're going to do movie nights. We're going to get out information. We're going to do a survey of all of the chapters in probably the 3rd week in March, we may be pointing to. Just a brief survey that's really going to try to get just a temperature check. Where are people? We know a lot of communities are already doing work in composting, but they're doing it in a variety of different ways. We know that some are already doing things with community gardens. We know that Cambridge just voted in participatory budgeting to build a microforest in Cambridge. We want microforests in at least half of the Mothers Out Front chapters by the end. If you don't know about microforests now, you will learn about them, and one day you will be putting a shovel into the dirt in your community to begin to engage in building a microforest, which will become an educational tool for the whole community. In the meantime, it will sequester 40 times the carbon that trees spread out, not in a microforest, will be able to sequester. It's an incredibly magical thing. And we want to share with everyone the magic of the soil carbon sponge. If we can restore it, we can change the direction in terms of climate change in our lives. Okay, so here's the thing I'm going to leave you with now. A few people have already emailed me to express their excitement about this after seeing the webinar. And immediately I write back and say, okay, you just signed up with your email to receive our action alerts. Guess what? If we're not a strategic campaign, a statewide campaign, we don't get the privilege of sending out alerts through the whole system. Patty, I see you shaking your head. I already got you signed up. You communicated. It's great. We've got you on. So this is for everyone here who hasn't done it yet. Just send me a little thing. It doesn't, just send me something in the subject mail that says sign me up in the subject line. Say no more. And you'll be signed up to get our action alerts. They're going to be infrequent, but boy, are they going to be wonderful. They're going to really tell you ways to get your hands in the ground, to learn with us, to come to movie nights. We may even give you a way to cook popcorn that's not the microwave bags. So stay tuned. We got a lot ahead, and you know, no slides this time, but if you come to the statewide assembly, we may pop a few beautiful pieces of art in front of you. So come and join us. But right now, think, as soon as you get off of this webinar, send me an email. You all know how to reach me, or send it to Christine and she'll send it to me. And it just says, sign me up. And then we can build it. We've got a spreadsheet. We'll just put you right in and boom, you're on. So that's it. Any questions? I think I left enough time, Christine.
You did great. And I put your email in the chat.
Great. Okay, sign me up is the word. Oh, Sharon, great. You're signed. All right. If anyone wants to put it in the chat, I will see it there. So put it in the chat, then you save yourself an email and a click. Okay.
Any questions?
Melissa,
What?
just don't invite Governor Baker because he likes that movie.
Oh, listen, that could be our leadoff movie. That could be our
Don't
leadoff
invite
movie.
him.
Have you seen it?
No.
Oh,
but
it's
I saw it in your
fantastic.
slideshow.
It may be the one thing that you and Governor Baker agree on, but you can find out by coming to our movie night. And if this were not a pandemic, I would personally be delivering little bags of organic popcorn that I have bought through one of our members' sites called Farmers to You, organic popcorn from Vermont. And I would be delivering it in little bags to everyone for our movie night. But we will do that later on when it becomes possible for all of us to do that. So, okay, Patty, we'll see you at Biggest Little Farm without Governor
Oh,
Baker.
Biggest Little Farm, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Rachel.
Oops.
Yeah, okay, I put it in the chat about the legislative. So I just want to send that as a message to the malt that even if it's an action group, I still think the legislative aspect of Healthy Soils, Healthy Future or Livable Future should be included.
Well, you know what, Rachel? I'm glad you mentioned that because I had a little note to myself circled in EJ that I forgot, but here you go. One of the action items that we are actually going to send out early in March is that we are going to invite people to jump over for now the state legislature into the federal level, because right now there's exciting things happening there. And our very, very own Cantabrigian Senator Elizabeth Warren is co-sponsoring with Carrie Booker and with Kristen Gillibrand and some others, which is very exciting.
And Warnock
from Georgia. They are co-sponsoring a bill specifically on justice for Black farmers. And we are going to be asking people to write to Senator Warren and others to express our delight that they are pushing this bill ahead in this session. We feel like we can do this now on the federal level, where for 4 years we were shut down. So, you know, our feeling is let's do it. So that's actually going to be one of the action items. Thanks for getting it on the table, because yes, that's in our plan.
Wonderful, wonderful. So if anybody has any other comments or questions for Melissa, you can write to her. And then if you want to know about all these fabulous things coming up, get signed up.
And thank you for all the chats. This is terrific. You guys are great. Right away, responding right in there. That's fantastic. Great. We love you, and we'll be in touch.
All right. So next up, we've got Diane to give us a brief update about what's going on with Green Roofs.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank you for your support for our chapter's primary campaign to bring green roofs to Cambridge. First, I'll take you through a brief timeline of the project. Selection of green roofs as a campaign happened over 2 years ago in January 2019 at an in-person community meeting. Remember those? A team of dedicated Mothers Out Front volunteers led by Flory Westcoat began by researching what other cities were doing and how they got there. As part of our research, we visited green roofs in Boston and Somerville and saw that there are numerous possibilities. Everything from sedum roofs with solar panels to a working rooftop farm at the Boston Medical Center that provides an abundance of fresh produce and honey to the hospital and its food pantry. Over the past 2 years, we've met with Cambridge City councilors and city staff, green roof designers and installers, housing advocates, roofing experts, and gardeners. We've reached out to people far and near to learn as much about green roofs as we can, and it has worked. Just yesterday, Green Roofs team co-lead Melissa Ludke spoke at a National Green Roofs Forum about growing a green roof policy at the local level. Who knew 2 years ago when we started this that we would become the experts? When Flory moved away in June, Melissa and I stepped up to co-lead the team because it takes two of us to fill her shoes. Before submitting the revised green roof ordinance to the City Council, many of you helped us collect actual signatures from friends and neighbors on a hard copy petition in support of the revision in November. Councilor Dennis Carlone helped us navigate the city government's pathways and set our expectations for the process. In December, we presented to the City Council. They approved unanimously to move green roofs to the Ordinance Committee. Then in January, the Ordinance Committee asked us to take our ordinance to the Planning Board. The Planning Board had many recommendations for us, and we have spent the last few weeks tightening the wording of the ordinance, bringing it into compliance with this existing building code, and concentrating the requirement with the help of a volunteer zoning specialist. We've met with the Cambridge Development Department staff as we prepare to return to the Ordinance Committee for another hearing in a month or so. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. There are many who would like us to dry up and blow away so that developers have no mandates. Going forward, we will be making a big push to the City Council to support the revised ordinance. We'll be reaching out to you in April with a concrete action, and we urge all of you to participate. We've come so far. Green roofs will provide many benefits to Cambridge, especially in neighborhoods like East and North Cambridge, where most development will occur and where flooding and heat islands are expected to be the most severe. This is a climate issue. This is a Cambridge issue. This is a justice issue. We appreciate your continuing support. Now, let's do this.
Wonderful. That was terrific.
Great.
Any questions? Quick questions? So, all right. Well, so thank you so much to Mina and Toby and Melissa and Diane. And Melissa has a question or
I don't
comment.
have a question, I have a comment, and I know Diane touched on it, but I just want to sort of emphasize it. We had a wonderful meeting with the entire Cambridge leadership team on Monday to really scope out how we're going to really bring the sort of forces to bear on the City Council once we get our revised ordinance in front of them again for a vote. And one of the things that we emphasized in that meeting was that we need to bring new voices. I mean, all of us are wonderful, but they're used to us. They see us, they think of us as, of course you'd be in favor of this. Why wouldn't you be? So we really need to do an outreach strategy across Cambridge in order for this to happen. So I would encourage all of you to just in the next few days when you're walking or whatever you're doing, it's going to rain tomorrow, maybe you can think for a little while instead of walk. Try to come up with like 3 people who you think that might be interested in these green roofs for any number of reasons. There are lots of good reasons to be interested in them. Think of 3 new people who just are friends of yours, who you could, at an appropriate time down the way, we're not ready yet, but when we are, to get the word out that they should be in contact with their counselors to support this. Patty?
So are you, I'm sorry if I missed what you said, Diane, already, but are you very connected with what's it called, First Cambridge, all the business groups?
Local Cambridge First.
Local Cambridge First. Are you,
Yes, the who was the executive director of it was scheduled to speak on our behalf. She, of course, has now announced that she's running for city council, so it's a little bit challenging. But she is definitely someone who, as an individual, is in favor of it. The organization, association itself, will not come out as an association to speak at this point. We did discuss that with her, but she was going to talk. So we're doing the best we can with that at this point.
yeah,
And
because
it may
Michael
happen.
Canner would be a great person to talk with.
Who would?
Michael Canner, who's the one of the co-owners of Cambridge
Local
Natural.
First. Oh,
I mean,
Cambridge Naturals.
he would be passionate about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other person we've been
Well,
in,
that's just what she's saying.
Yeah.
You've already thought of somebody, but why should it be, why should I speak to them? Why can't you speak to him, Patty?
I'll speak to him.
Great.
that would be
That's what you
great.
should do. We should all, it's not up to our little group. It's up to all of us.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Thank you,
Yeah,
Patty.
that's what I was
Well,
trying to
send
say.
me some more information, Diane.
Yes, we
Whatever
will.
you have. I'll talk to him. For
We
sure.
definitely
Well,
will. And I'd like to just take one little segue and say that both Leslie Bliss and Wendy McCluskey are on this call, and they have been on this team and part of the strategy group from the very, very beginning. And even though, you know, Melissa and I kind of are the big mouths in the group, these two are never, their support and advocacy has never ceased, and I just want to hold it up.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's a great idea, Patty. And someone else suggested down the way, I think it might have been Mina or Christine, someone that we get in touch with the guy who's just set up the new
Oh, yeah, that was me.
market in Central Square.
Yeah, I tried.
No,
And then you guys ran with it.
Oh, but I found him, and we have the email. The only thing is he's on a 7-week road trip, driving to California and back. But when he gets back, I think he'll probably come and speak for us. So we really are trying to expand out there into the business community, into people who want to do this. So if anyone can think of people, just jot them down in 3 bullet points. You can send them to Diane or me or Leslie or Wendy, whoever you remember to send them to. And we'll collect them with your name attached. And when it comes time, we'll give you all the material to send to them.
Okay, wait a second. So I understand Rachel and Anna want to ask a question. I'm just telling the group that we're going to be 5 minutes over, and I hope that's okay with everybody.
Just really
Alright.
quick. So the timeline for this, you're not sure yet. And is it up to city council or is it up to the zoning board? Because the zoning board was who
No.
mixed it, right?
Yeah, no,
board.
it's not up to the zoning board. It'll go back to we'll present at the ordinance committee, and then from the ordinance committee, we'll go back to the city council, and all of that has to happen. The latest that they can vote on it at the city council is May 4th.
Okay, that's good.
Anna?
My question was very similar. Is like who has ultimate control of this? Like who can make this happen? Is it the city council? Is it the city council? Because I did hear about the planning committee meeting being really hard.
The planning committee meeting was hard, and the Cambridge Development Department is pushing against it because they don't like mandates, which is why we've had a green roofs ordinance on the books since 2012, and we haven't had any green roofs built because they don't like mandates. So just to be clear, this is not a slam dunk. We have to be very intentional, very focused. We've worked really hard, and we just stick with it for another 3 months.
Yeah. So just to know that every time we go into a meeting, and we've been in now a couple with the CDD, the Cambridge Development Department, every time we go into it, they have a new reason why it shouldn't happen. So the last one that they put before us was the idea that they've always been intending to, now carefully listen to the language here, they've always been intending to have a mandate for solar panels in Cambridge. Well, this always have been intending to, has been happening since the net zero passed in 2015. It has not happened yet. Okay, and I don't know why we should believe that it will happen, but they are now telling us that we should not do ours because it will interfere with theirs. And to which we respond, no, it won't. Put the solar panels together with the vegetation, you'll get more energy produced for the city, and you will also help the vegetation on the roof, which will help your stormwater. So we're in obviously a situation where whatever we come forward with, there's a new wrinkle that is sort of put in our way. But we are mothers out front, so we're going to continue to fight it. We'll continue to roll over the barriers. And one day we will have this. So stay tuned, and with your help, we'll get the city councilors to vote yes. Yes.
Wonderful. So we will only go a couple of minutes over, but I'd like to say the next thing we need to do is to vote that this group of active volunteers is either for or against the Clean Air, Clean Heat proposal becoming the statewide campaign. So with a show of hands, could you please raise your hand if you're for the proposal? All right, so that's great. Next one. We need a show of hands if everyone is okay with Healthy Soils, Livable Future becoming an action group. All righty. What a tough crowd. Lastly, we need a show of hands if you are in favor of corporate responsibility becoming an action group. Wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you. So I've got one more thing to say, but thank you so much to all the presenters. You really presented and made it succinct and interesting and exciting. And before we leave, I just want you to know that, I need to look at my notes, that the Cambridge team, the leadership team would like to participate in an Earth Week of events that Many Helping Hands is organizing for environmental groups in Cambridge. There will be some online environmental education and some in-person engagement for things like cleaning up local parks and along the river, invasive plant removal, and habitat restoration. So we're very excited about this opportunity because we have not, we just haven't had a lot of outreach. I mean, other than that fact that the Green Roofs team is doing so much, but like a way to engage the rest of our volunteers. So we need a planning team because as you can see, every one of us on the leadership team is busy and we'd like some help from our active volunteers. And so we need a planning team for this week of events. It shouldn't be like a heavy lift is what they've promised us. But please stay on after I say goodbye to everybody. If you're interested, or send me an email and say you'd like to be on the planning team. It's not going to be a heavy lift. This week of engagement is going to come up in April. And it shouldn't be too challenging. Leslie is on that team from the Many Helping Hands. She was on the list of people who sent us a letter, and she's got a comment.
Yes, I was going to say, this is Green Cambridge, the Charles River Conservancies, a lot of other groups are being asked what they're, if they want to participate in thinking of ideas for Zoom panels and for activities. It doesn't have to be a cleanup. It could be some sort of demonstration. It could demonstration like demonstrating how to do something. So it's use your imagination, be creative, think of good Zoom panels. There are a number of themes being developed. So environmental justice is at the center of all of this.
So you can either stay on now and let me know that you want to be on, help us with this, or you can send me an email. But short of that, it's
dates
7:02. We don't know the dates yet. We need a team to meet with this the Many Helping Hands group, and then we don't know. They're making it up. If you've got ideas and creativity and think this would be a great thing to do, please join us. So yeah, so it's 7:02. We're ending almost on time. It was a great meeting. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine.
Thanks, Christine. Well done. All right. Bravo.
Good to see everybody.
Thanks, Christine.
Christine, I see somebody asked about the timing, and it would be the week before and maybe the week after Earth Day. It's all centered around Earth Day, which is what, April 24th? So sort of around that timing.
Yeah. Thank you. Leslie, you're on everything. I couldn't believe when I saw your name on that. It helped many helping hands. It's turning into a year-long project for you. So do
That's
we have,
why it's Many Helping Hands 365 and not just the MLK Day.
That's right.
But one of the things to keep in mind is that this Many Helping Hands, I mean, has a regional email list of 4,000 people plus.
Wow.
So, you know, getting Mothers Out Front name out there and participating in some sort of Zoom panels or activities could be really impactful.
Oh, believe me, when we saw it, we were like, wow, this would be an amazing opportunity. So we're very excited too.
I can tell you quickly that yesterday when the core team was meeting, it's Cambridge centered, but you know, sort of like thinking about themes such as the riverways, and that people, you know, like the Charles River Conservancy and the watershed and various friends groups might be involved in that. There was a whole thing about energy. Citizens action would be another thing. But one of the biggest categories was resilient communities. And that would involve, we thought like Green Cambridge would be very involved in that with their farm, and inviting people like Cambridge City Growers to get involved, maybe the Healthy Soils group. Anyway, so, you know, but there are all sorts of possibilities. So it's the inaugural one.
Yeah, I know. I love the idea. I thought, wow, as much as they get people power for the Martin Luther King Day, oh my God, if they do this every year for Earth Day, that would be great.
Yeah. So there were like, you know, other ideas, like, I don't know if you all know, I'm just blanking right now. Oh, Nicola Williams here in Cambridge.
Right.
Was doing this seeds
of
project.
Glory. Yeah.
Yeah, so I made like several hundred little kits for her, and Melissa delivered them. You know, little projects like that, those were little seedlings of herbs that went to seniors who were isolated so that they could, you know, have some greenery and something to do and feel connected. So, but there are all sorts of levels at which one could approach this. So I'll stop talking.
No, that's great. Thank you. So am I to understand that Rachel, Anna, and Judy are interested in this?
I'm interested. My only concern is just if you know, my daughter is 11 and she's barely ever at school, but she is in school. I think it's the week of. I think one of those weeks she would be on vacation, and
I think that's the idea. It's Earth Week is always. I mean, I don't know if that's the idea, but it always seems to coincide with school vacation week.
Right. So I'm just concerned. I think I'll be less available, but and I'm not sure how many ideas I have, but I'd love to. But I am not teaching right now, so I am. You know.
You can just be, you know, even if you made it to a couple of meetings and had some ideas and could be helpful. Yeah, then if you have to back off, that's fine.
Okay,
Leslie,
cool.
were you going to say something?
Anna, I think the idea was that like maybe bridging, I think if I know the calendar correctly, like usually Earth Day falls on the second weekend of the April break. So that's why I was thinking the week before and the week after. And if I could just say that, I mean, nothing is written in stone right now. So that's one thing. But for MLK Day, since we had to pivot to being virtual, we had a whole week long thing of actions, and we tried to do them at different times. And we had like 5 different panel discussions, one every day,
Yeah.
on a different topic, that really drew in a lot of people. And we're going to ask the Cambridge Public Library again to do a environmental book, read aloud for kids. We haven't asked them yet, but we will. So
it's fluid, dynamic, and
Yeah,
fluid.
no, that sounds great. And the MLK week was, I think Monday was a good day for, we were involved, but not the other days because the week got, yeah, great.
Rachel, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it's probably the 19th is the holiday, right? That's Patriots Day, which is Marathon Day, but I don't think we're gonna have a marathon, right?
we aren't. No.
We're not gonna have a marathon. No, they're talking about maybe September.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that week, and then if there could be some things the following week, because the weather only gets better and better, towards the end of April.
Exactly.
To do outdoor things. I'd be interested in doing something around cleanup around the river. I always get involved with that anyways. And Kathy Susie of Cambridge Port organizes.
Going to be contacted.
And the other thing I'm wondering if there's a Sunrise group in Cambridge that we could coordinate with.
Well, they're on our list for the citizen action area, and just trying to track them down and contact them.
And then probably there's a club. I know there used to be an environmental club and composting and all that at the high school.
I've been in touch with the high school about a couple of things, and it's really challenging with Zoom. The last time I tried to get an environmentalist involved from them, but Leslie, if you need any help getting the Sunrise kids, I think I've got some contacts.
But there's some really good teachers at Ringe that probably Christine, also, Barbara Doherty. And,
right. No, I always contact her when I've got a whole list of teachers and
Karen Engels, she's doing 4th grade. Karen Engels, she's amazing, and she taught my daughter just incredible unit on energy. Do you know her, Christine?
No, I see her on the listserv, the parent listserv. When she's the best. She a science teacher?
She's just a genius. She is seriously.
Yeah, but is she a genius science teacher?
No, she's a 4th grade teacher. She does 3rd and 4th grade, and she's incredible. I mean, she's busy, but she's one of the best teachers I've ever met in my entire life of only interacting with teachers.
Where is she? Which school?
At Graham and Parks.
Oh, wow.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well,
so I guess so
that might be good to connect up. The science department will probably be connected up with this in some way, right?
Okay, but so this isn't the planning meeting. So what I want to do is I'm going to write all of you guys and include you, and you can either come or not, but there is a planning meeting next Thursday, and I will just send you the email, and don't feel like you've just committed to something. Well, but it's nice to have a few people who are interested. Not you, Leslie, I know you're running the thing, but these 4 here.
On the other side.
Yeah. All right, great.
Yeah.
Wait, before everybody goes,
what time is the planning meeting, or you'll just send us an email?
Yeah,
I have to send you. Well, no, actually, if you have a second, I can look it up. And then while I'm doing that, Anna, can you tell me? Do you by any chance?
So just so you know, Christine and the rest of you. So just so you know, that Mothers Out Front was invited to that meeting. Green Cambridge, Better Future Project. Because Craig oversees all of the crew and the other things, as well as All in Energy. So those were the people who were invited to come to that meeting. And hopefully the YWCA and My Brother's Keeper, who partnered with us for MLK Day, will also be interested.
Is it Chris Hope that you're talking to? Who are you talking to at My Brother's Keeper?
Tony Clark and Ty Belletti and Nico and Elijah.
Wow. Okay.
Those are our.
So the meeting, and I will send you an invitation email, but it is the first planning meeting with the Many Helping Hands group is 4:30 on this coming Thursday, the 4th. And It's just,
That's the same day as Mass Power Forward virtual.
okay.
learning.
Yeah, so, you know,
Oh.
we all do what we can, but I'll put you
Yeah.
on the list anyway.
Yeah,
And
okay.
that should be an hour-long meeting.
Yeah.
So Anna, is anybody savvy on, I understand how to save the chat because I just click on this thing that says save the chat. Do you know where it goes once I've done that?
Found it, but I've been blissfully non-Zooming because I have not been teaching online very much.
Rachel, do you know?
Yeah, it goes onto your document. It
Desktop?
gets saved somewhere. You just go to your,
What?
it's saved onto some, go ahead.
Leslie, do you know?
I was
No,
trying to
but
speak.
I'm wondering if it
Leslie was
goes to the
speaking.
clipboard.
Sorry.
Okay, so Rachel,
I can tell you, but
Yeah.
everybody else was speaking at the same time, so I couldn't say anything. Do
Okay,
you want me to tell you?
yes, please.
Yeah. So do you have a Mac or a PC?
Mac.
So you go on your, you get out of your, whatever you use, your whatever system you use, you go to home, and then I go to usually it's in my documents.
Oops. Sorry.
I think it's in my yeah. Well, I know my Zoom stuff, all my Zoom stuff goes there.
Okay.
So